Alrighty, welcome back everybody to Overdunk, your favorite competitive Pokemon Unite podcast. My name is Zoinks. I am joined as always by Bridget. Unfortunately, no Dupes next year today, so we will make up for his energy with a lot of good vibes and thoughts about Pokemon Unite. I think it's what Dupes Next brings to the table, right? I think so.
It's what he would want.
It's true. Well, he's not dead. I do want to make that clear, but we are gonna honor
us.
we are gonna honor his wishes as if he has passed. I think that is the fair thing to do. Bridget, the pre-show we were talking about our ranked games, but other than that, outside of that, how have you been lately?
Pretty good. Holiday time feels like it's very busy, so a lot of stuff going on
Cool.
in real life, but also had a pretty fun time this weekend watching all of the tournaments. So
Yeah, it was fun.
we're cruising. Yeah.
Quick personal question to you: what is your favorite holiday tradition?
Oh.
It can be like super specific to your family. Actually, maybe that's even a more fun question. Is there any like weird tradition that your family holds that you find really fun? Well, I'll give you a second to think about it, and I'll jump in with my own. I think it's fun. And this is honestly less of a tradition. It kind of is with how frequently it was. I'm an only child, so family was very small, and oftentimes my dad was out of town for the holidays. So when we made it the Christmas tree and stuff, you know, like. We just had a few weird kooky things because like there wasn't a ton of presents under the tree. There was only a couple of us. So to make it fun, we would add extra weird decorations. And our favorite thing to do was walk around like Target or whatever, my mother and I, and we would buy the picture frame ornaments that we thought had really good looking families in them. And then we would hang them up and say they're our relatives.
Are you serious?
Yeah, to people who came by. Yeah, we would find the best looking families and then put them on the tree and be like, yeah, those are our cousins.
That is insane and amazing.
Yeah, it was a hilarious, like my mom and I just thought it was the funniest. Like we would start coming up with like because you know you have company over, you know, I had like friends over or whatever, and we would just stick to the bit hard. It was awesome. I absolutely loved it.
So funny.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with that. That explains
It's pretty
so
good.
much.
yeah. It worked out well. I liked it a lot.
Okay, wow.
Gotta say they're past relatives. I'm honoring their wishes. Healthy chatter. That is true. I love that. How about you, Bridget? Any goofy weird ones or just any ones that you really enjoyed?
Definitely nothing of that caliber. Wow.
All right.
We're pretty low key.
Cool.
Our thing, I guess, was like when we were growing up, we would always go to like Hallmark, and like me and my brothers would pick out like one ornament every year, and those were like our ornaments, and
Awesome.
it was like kind of fun to see like what we picked each year. And
That is true.
I don't know, it was cute. I always liked doing that.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two brothers.
Okay, you should at some point, as a test for some of your closest friends, and I mean me and Deuce Next, you should collect all of those from you and your two brothers, take a photo of each of them, and then we have to guess which one's yours.
Okay, this is not even fair because theirs were always sport and mine was princess.
Okay.
Cartoon character.
All right.
Maybe like the more high school years ones would be more ambiguous.
Yeah, you can pick an array. Maybe it doesn't have to be the entirety. You pick like 3 or 4 from each one, and you can kind of figure it out. I don't know. I keep making everything a challenge that has to stop.
You really are like gamifying like
I am.
every aspect of your life.
I am. This is messed
And
up.
I respect that.
This is messed up. I gotta find something else. I'm not pulling Pokemon pocket cards as we speak, so I need to try to come up with things to entertain my brain as we do it. But
I agree.
All right, so folks, in the Pokemon Unite world, it's been a pretty exciting time, an interesting time in game. I feel like I've approached the last few months of Unite with such a weird, hesitant optimism. In so many different ways. Like, it feels like there's one part of the game that's absolutely fantastic, there's another part of the game that's struggling, and it feels like that has not exactly broken away. Since our last episode, there has been a lot of stuff we missed. So if you missed our last episode, by the way, we will be uploading a bunch of those. We'll talk about it soon. This is our last episode. We had Spraggles on for basically a meta recap surrounding the AOS Cup play-ins. It was really interesting. Immediately after, we had the changes come to ranked, and then after that, we had a bounce. So I don't think we did an episode last week. Now that I'm thinking about it.
We did not. We did not.
We did. Fantastic.
I didn't want to break it to you.
Yeah, fair enough. Just like the ornaments. Okay, and then so there's a big balance patch, and then of course a big change to the ranked, as well as a new character release, and then of course another set of Unite Championship Series tournaments. So we have a lot to talk about. It really is going to be a jam-packed episode with Bridget and I. So Bridget, why don't you guide the wheel here? Which thing do you want to talk about first? Ranked changes, Tinkaton, December UCS, or I guess the kind of the patch. I mean, that could be quick, but any of those that you want to talk about first.
Let's talk about matchmaking.
Let's talk about matchmaking. Okay.
Going.
Glad you brought it up. So they fixed matchmaking. Maybe. I don't know. A lot of thumbnails said they did. A lot of thumbnails said they didn't on YouTube. It is a big change that they tried to add to the game. And I said tried because nobody's quite sure if it worked. But essentially, a developer letter was put out. I'm a bad podcast host. I don't have it exactly in front of me. But the paraphrase is that they are changing away from a MMR-based system, or essentially a skill-based system, and instead moving to try to pair opponents to the closest ELO rating as possible in a mobile game where they want to try to keep queue times quick. It is a decision that is made that I think a lot of people were excited about. Obviously, if you want to rate players, a skill-based system, our internal matchmaking is usually a positive experience until you start to get too good. And then all of a sudden the game knows it needs to balance that out by putting really good players with weaker players to try to create balanced games. This has been a problem in every single game that has MMR-based matchmaking. Pokemon UNITE is one of them. This has been a thing that is talked about in Battle Royale specifically. I know this was a huge talking point in Apex Legends like 2 years ago. Their ranked mode being a little more strict helped it eventually, but our ranked mode is a little bit different than that. Anyway, now this system is intending to move, but the reports coming back from people who are actually playing the game are not exactly what it feels like this letter intended. Instead, players are basically getting paired in a very gigantic skill range, to the point where players who are in 1600 are still sometimes, I feel like it's a little bit more of an oddity, are getting paired into games that are like in Ultra. So, not even getting draft games. A really wild disparity. It's interesting. I have been playing the ranked ladder mostly in solo queue, some in duo queue, and I have to admit I haven't gotten many Masters games, but I also haven't really approached the 1400 mark, which is not exactly an oddity. And Richard, I know I'm ranting, but the one final note of this change was that they are changing the gain and loss of the ELO system slightly. Basically, in the previous system, to get to at 1600 was where the gain and loss of your ELO evened out, in which you would get the same amount of ELO for a win, same amount as a loss. They have now, or rather it was at, yeah, it was actually now it has been moved back to 1400. So in theory, it will take you longer to climb. And I think that part has actually been true. But okay, I've been talking so much, that's a ton of information. Bridget, any thoughts on these changes so far?
So obviously, I feel like with the initial, even post about it, everyone was feeling pretty positive. Just that they were even, no one, I would say, actually thought they would ever probably mess with it at all. Right. So the fact that they have is kind of crazy.
We had fixed matchmaking signs at Worlds Year 1, right? Like, people have been asking for this for a long time, and we're what, in year 4 of the game now, like, or almost there. So pretty wild. But anyway, yeah, continue.
Yeah, so was feeling pretty optimistic. I think Zoinks and I were talking earlier, maybe I said in the pre-show, that I did feel like maybe you can correct this for me, Zoinks. I felt like my games when I was climbing in Ultra were like pretty good, but did they actually change anything about how Ultra players are like matched together?
Yeah, not listed in any of the changes. No, basically all of these changes start applying to the Master rank. More on that later.
Yeah, which I find confusing because it seems like I've only kind of climbed to like high 1200s. I'm like by no means very far in the Masters climbing experience, so I'm not exactly sure what the issue is, but and I did hit Masters pretty fast, and so I've not gotten any draft games whatsoever at all. And
Okay.
my only other references, I was also talking about how I watch Bruv every morning, pretty much, who is solo queuing all the time. And granted, he is probably way higher elo than the continent he is on. I think he's already hit 1600.
Okay.
And I don't know if he's gotten a draft game, like,
Oof.
period. Yeah. So I'm not sure what, like, he just keeps getting matched with ultra players, which feels like, is the new matchmaking even working if
Right.
we aren't even in games with I don't understand how it basically feels like they just like deleted draft from
Right.
the ranked experience right now. I'm not sure if that's like a player pool issue or it just feels like there's still a lot of like gray areas that I don't understand, and I would say I'm pretty immersed in communications about this game, so I can't imagine how it feels to everyone else that has probably even less of a clue, but it's not like, I don't know. I am just not, it doesn't really make sense to me if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it is a really weird puzzle that it feels like they left for these players to solve. Now with Bruv, April in chat saying that Bruv is almost at 1800 with no draft. Like, truly absurd work. And my gut instinct is to kind of point to a player pool problem. We've known about that for a long time, right? The player base is extremely small in this game compared to what it once was. So maybe that's what's going on. Maybe they changed something and we don't know about. I'm not too sure. My thoughts on this rank change overall. I mean, one, that is kind of absurd. Like, why are we up to 1400, 1600, maybe even 1800, and we're not landing into draft games? That doesn't make any sense. Could be bugged. Wonder Chef saying that in chat as well. There are an abundance of bugs in this patch. So much so that the December Cup had 2 Pokemon banned, or at least 1 banned, 1 moveset banned, and I think there was like still over a handful of bugs in the game that are more detrimental or lesser known, so they are like not considered tournament bans. But yeah, this is a weird patch for that. They definitely got to do some fixing to get some things corrected. They did correct one weird thing. We'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, this is all really strange. I think we kind of have to wait a little bit longer before we make any judgment calls on it. But I think no matter what, in theory, this change was going to have extremely hard growing pains at the start. And I think it is going to have extremely hard growing pains going forward if the ranked resets still work the same way. So I went on a rant on this on Twitter a little bit. Let me do it here on the podcast as well for people listening. If you were going to match players into the appropriate elo for their games, and it's stating a couple of things. First off, it's stating, not officially, but it's saying what we've always known, is that the only true ranked mode in this game is Master Rank. Like, that is where ranked mode begins. Throughout the rest of it, you're going to get protection cards, way more encouragement for win streaks, things like that. Making your way through Ultra, maybe like those games are a little bit more competitive than the rest of it, but it's not really how the game treats ranked. Where it actually considers that is the elo, and that's shown in this new change of how that is the direction they want to pair players in. The problem is, if that's where ranked starts, every time you reset the season, it's essentially like taking the entire player base and putting them all in bronze at the same time in another game to start every single season. And then you have to play however many games to try to get up to the point where you are playing against opponents who you are supposed to be playing at in this game's theory of what you're supposed to be playing at. Essentially, let's say Bridget, let's say you're like a 1600 level gamer. We don't really know exactly what that means yet, but maybe in a few months, a year, maybe, we will know exactly where that is. For you to get up to your appropriate level of play, you need to climb 400 points of elo from the starting point. Which, I mean, it's get to Masters first place, which takes however many games. But to climb up to 1600 now, with these new changes to how quickly you gain, and no benefit for win streaks or anything like that, it takes an absurd amount of games. You're looking at like over 100 games probably to get to the point of ranked where you were playing fair, I'm going to put quotations up here for audio listeners, fun, balanced games, which is an insane thing to conceive. There is also an abundance of solutions to this kind of thing, but we don't have that talked about. So basically my whole point surrounding this and kind of how the structure doesn't work as is the idea of this structure was never going to work on a first pass because it's essentially a ranked reset. But even more drastic because now it's going to ignore MMR, or at least that's how it's supposed to, or how it's been told to us. The idea of us resetting every season to Ultra is crazy to me. And I do think they should try to change things. A lot of other games, the simplest thing they can do is they give you the illusion of placement games, right? It's what so many ranked games do. You play your 10 placement games and then it sets you into a certain rank. And the game tells you they're meaningful. I feel like if you've played a few seasons of ranked, they're just going to put you in the same spot anyways, even if you win all 10, maybe a little bit higher. But that feels like what they should be doing instead of putting everyone back into Ultra. You play a few placement games and you get put somewhere on the Master Elo ladder, especially if you achieve Masters the year before, or the season before, rather. That feels like the most cookie-cutter solution to me, like the most straightforward option, but who knows? I do think that's the way it should be. If you make Masters in a season, when you reset, you start back at placement games, and then you find out where you land on the ladder. Maybe if you miss like 2 or 3 seasons, you get put back in Ultra. I don't know. But I don't think this system works otherwise. You can't take an entire player base who has been, running a race with the whole purpose of seeing how far each person can run and then being like, great, everybody back to the starting line. We're going to do it again. It is not a world where that operates. So, yeah, I don't know. It's yet to be seen. I think right now it's pretty clear that it doesn't work, or at least it doesn't work exactly like they told us it was going to. And I also don't think it's going to continue to work unless they make some pretty big changes. So we'll see. That's my thoughts on it. I'm like less pessimistic, I think, than some people around it, which tends to be my MO. But I also just think it's almost just like a logical failure. A little bit of a change. So I want to see that change. Oh, okay. Any more thoughts on this rank change before we move on, Bridget?
I don't think so. I do really like your idea of the placement games, and it makes sense that this wide pool is resulting in this weird matchmaking that we're experiencing. But right. Like you said, I'm also tend to be on the more hopeful side, and I know you said you've been approaching the game with some weird optimism, and I'm I feel that as well. I am I don't know if I'm just tired of complaining, but I'm just approaching this with a sense of whimsy at this point. Yeah. And I have always honestly appreciated, albeit not always a good thing, that the devs will at least try something new. That's and true. They've showed us before with how they've applied draft mode to what tier of ranked you're at, that they're willing to go back and forth, and I'm hopeful that they will. I mean, they listened about matchmaking to begin with. They definitely did not need to touch it. I feel like that was totally people seem really unsatisfied. Let's see if this works, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. So I'm hopeful that they will continue to be flexible and try to fix whatever is happening, because I do think it needs something, or I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I think we're pretty aligned on that point. We need to change it. Cool that they're listening. Cool that they're making an adjustment. 3 years too late. I think if this change was made very early on, if Theia Sky Ruins came out and this change to ranked also entered in at the same time, oh man, I feel like there'll be a way more interesting thing to see what would happen to the player base at that point in time. That would be really, really interesting. But
I do feel like it is kind of a symptom of smaller
Mm-hmm.
player pools.
Yeah.
I took me a while to find, but I did find like an interesting. I saw like an interesting tweet when like the matchmaking changes first came out, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a formula basically like how many games it'll take you to win
Right.
based on like what your win rate is, and it is definitely a climb. It
So.
is trying to fix what people have been saying, that like you can get to 1600 with a negative win rate, which they did
Correct.
directly change
Yes.
with this. So
Mm-hmm.
I do have to give them that, but some things I do feel like not going right, but it's hard to say what.
I love that both Wonder Chef and Smim are in our podcast chat right now, and both are being like, "We're so bad at the game. How long is it gonna take us to get to to get to 1600?"
I can post the tweet in chat.
Yeah, it is.
You have to translate
truly
it, but
wild. It is truly wild. I like. I'm gonna bring up the example again. Like, if you think you were a 1600 level gamer, or again, whatever we would consider that to be, I think 1600 we could probably give it in our game's equivalent something similar in this new structure, something similar to like maybe a plat or maybe even diamond level player, right? Like they're a little bit apples to oranges at this point because the systems are so different, but it's kind of what I would consider. If you're a 60% win rate player, which already is better than most of the pack. So let's actually go down to 55%. I think 55% is probably going to be the majority of listeners. If you are a 55% win rate player, to get to 1600, it will take you 222 games. 222 games, which I guess is essentially saying if you're a 55% win rate player, you're not really a 1600 level player, not by this game's margins. But those 1600 level players are going to be paired against you at the start of the season, because that's just how it works. It's like, that is one thing that I think, like you just mentioned, the positivity of it. You can't get the 1600 about win rates anymore, right? So 52% Smim is 556 games to get to 1600. 556 games.
Good luck, buddy.
So that's the one thing that I think a lot of people are upset about, about these changes and stuff. They're like, it's going to take me forever to get to 1600. And it's like, well, the game's kind of changing their perception on it to the point where they don't think you should hit 1600 anymore. They're like, I guess you could grind to it, but like this system has changed. If you were a 55% win rate player, the game is saying that at this point with this new structure, you are not a 1600 level player. You're likely a 12 to 1300 level player, and this is a new system. And I don't know. That's one thing I think people aren't getting on board with quick enough. I think I see a lot of discussion about like, it's going to take me so many games. And I'm like, well, it might take you infinite games. You might not be the ability to get there. But then there's the problem.
Good, buddy.
Right, exactly. But then we're hitting the problem of like what you were talking about. Bruv is going through right now. Are you still getting paired with ultra players? So it's like, I mean, at that point,
right, what like, is
this system isn't even working. So it's like, I don't know. So that's you don't know. It is what it is. Okay, I think we've talked about this a lot. I think we can come back to this on another episode for sure.
Yeah,
we can get another look at it. But we're going down a well, and we don't even know if it's working or not, because it feels like maybe it's not.
I know.
So we'll get that. Smith, don't at Bruv in our chat.
Don't bring him in here.
Yeah, Gatlu's already here. All right, so let's talk about something good in the game though. I personally have absolutely loved Take a Ton release. Huge fan. I talked about it quite a bit in the pre-show, but I absolutely adore this Pokemon. I'm a huge fan of all-rounders. It is a great all-rounder. Even with the emergency buff, I don't think it is truly like S+++ tier or anything like that. Well, it might be S tier. I don't know. It's pretty fantastic. I love the Pokemon. Very, very fun to play. It's one of my favorite releases. I don't necessarily know if it's Psyduck release good.
Agree.
And I'm not saying power level. I'm just saying, like, I think Psyduck's release was amazing. I do think it's too strong, but I'm just saying, like, overall, I think Psyduck was a brilliant design. I loved it. But Take a Ton, I think it's great. Few of its moves feel a little clunky, but almost by design, so I guess I kind of get it. So overall, love it. Power level, after the changes, pretty good. but it is a snowball monster. It feels like if you're playing from behind on Tinkaton, you are struggling out there. So I feel like that's kind of the balancing point around it. But Bridget, how about you? I know you haven't really got to play much with the Tinkaton patch, but have you seen any gameplay of it?
Yeah, I've definitely been watching all the streams and stuff of people trying it out. It's been really fun. I am always obsessed with how they put the Pokemon in the game. I feel like they capture them so well. And Tinkaton, Big Hammer, I mean,
Yep.
it looks like she's living her best life when she hits the thief run.
Oh
I can't lie.
Gosh, I love it.
It's so cute. I feel like the design is pretty like straightforward. Like it's not like, I don't know. Its movesets seem pretty like straightforward to me, which I don't think is a bad thing. I still think the design is like good and fits them on really well. And yeah, totally agree with the snowball monster effect, because I feel like if you play like range and kind of like either stop it early game or, you know, ensure a bad gank. I don't think people are really running it in jungle though, right? Because you want to get your
farm
hammer
is
stacks.
so, yeah, you kind of need to fight to get hammer stacks, and your clear is so slow on that Pokemon. Oh my gosh, Tinkatink is adorable, but they can't swing for crap. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble knocking out buttlebees in lane. So yeah. It's tough out there.
So it does, I agree with you. I don't think I think maybe the lesser moveset needed the buffs, the Ice Hammer and
Smackdown.
But it still seems like Gigaton and Thief are way better, obviously, and they also got buffed as well, so it's like, duh, they're still probably gonna be better. But I agree with you. It doesn't feel to me as game breaking literally as Darkrai or more figuratively as Psyduck. So I appreciate the level of this release. I think it's really fun, and I feel like I've seen very positive overall receipt of the community.
Discussion? I don't know. Consensus? This was
those words
Receipts.
as well. All of those words.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. So I'm pretty happy with it. I don't feel like it's being like put. I feel like I've not seen like any Tinkaton codes. Where are the Tinkaton codes? But that's the only critique I have. Where are the codes, guys?
Give me the Tinkaton codes, please. Yeah, I love the release. It feels like one of those where I'm fine that it's strong, you know, that it's good. Maybe I'll regret these words in a week. So, all right, it's too good, but I truly find it fun. I think the Ice Hammer change actually was enough to push it into viability against certain compositions.
Really?
I like it better if you have a lot of like ranged Pokemon on your team. Like if your jungler's ranged, I kind of like having the ability to slow down the enemy, make it a little bit easier for them to hit their shots and stuff like that. I feel like we're more consistently winning ganks if I'm running Ice Hammer. But if you're more melee oriented, that physical defense shred is crazy on Thief, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I'll walk all over them, and my team will also walk all over them. That's kind of nice. So I don't know. I feel like there's some decisions to be had, but I do think Thief is better on paper. I just don't know if it's like universally better. And that's maybe my hot take on this show. I don't know. But,
whoa.
I like them both. SmackDown's fine. SmackDown would be 1,000 times better if you could move while casting it. I don't like that you have to stand still and use it. If you could, like, even if like it just let you strafe a little, you know how like Armarouge ult kind of lets you move a little bit while in the air or something? Like if you could do that, like if you kind of went into a little bit of a slow-mo like walk or something with it, I think it would be much more enjoyable. But unfortunately not the case. I actually don't even know if it's bad as an ability. Like I don't really care about that. I genuinely just find it unfun to play because it like stops your mobility. And that is just not fun. And so I think it is a fun fail. Therefore, I won't even touch it. I won't even read what it does, Bridget. I don't care. I don't care what its numbers are if it is not fun. Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Tinkaton in general. Great Pokemon. The first holo they put out being the holiday one absolutely crushes it. The little holly and bells and stuff is adorable on Tinkaton. Just really fits. So big fan. That they are going to have some fun with Tinkaton Hollowware. I
Oh,
guarantee it. It's
I
gonna be
love Big
good.
Hammer. I just
Mm-hmm.
love the Big Hammer, and I just such a good Gen 9 Mon. Love
Yeah,
it.
it's great.
Like,
The first
yeah.
Pokemon, by the way, we should mention it, to break out of the, NPC jail in game.
True.
It definitely had a pretty specific special role in its NPC jail, but it is the first one to finally break out. So,
It's
I don't know.
big.
Maybe there's hope for Dupes Nexus Pelipper yet, or
Yeah, okay,
we'll
buddy.
see. Or all you Electrode fans out there potentially in the game.
There's hope, guys.
There
There's
is
hope.
hope. Can you imagine if they gave Electrode like explode and you did die every time you used the move and you just
Honestly,
had to respawn? God,
it's so I literally laugh every time I get exploded on Clefable.
it's pretty great.
It tickles me every time. I can't even lie to you. So
Be the
I'm
most stream
aligned.
snipe Pokemon of all time. You
Yeah,
just
oh, that's so
clicking it in
toxic.
base. You're like, okay, we can't.
Oh
this
my
one.
god.
Maybe you'd have to hit it like, and you can only tap the button if there's like an enemy Pokemon within range or something. All right, I'm not spending design brain space on Electrode.
Yeah,
Unite.
maybe
They
we
can
pause.
surprise me with that one if they really want to. But I don't think that one's
Crazy.
coming to the game. All right. Well, overall, I think we're a pretty big fan of Take a Ton. We're about 30 minutes into the episode, so it feels like we should talk about a little bit of esports, Bridget.
Perhaps.
This is the best competitive Pokemon Unite podcast, I do say. That's
So
true.
true.
Well, not even the best, actually. I do say it's your favorite. I don't want to make the claim
We don't
it's
even
the best.
claim to be the best.
No,
We're not,
maybe
you know?
we're like the
No
only
expect-
Unite podcast left, but also.
I mean, still your favorite.
I think there are a couple Unite podcasts going up and they upload about as frequently as we do, so it's okay. But anyway, let's talk about December Cup. So the second Unite Championship Series tournament has come and gone. Happened this last weekend, so this is every Unite Championship Series region, aka every region in the West. All 2 teams in OC competed, as well as teams in EU, North America, LATAM, North, South, and Brazil. We didn't have an episode previewing this tournament, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Holiday time is getting busy. But I did put out a tweet saying that I think that over all of the tournaments, we were only going to have I said we were only going to have 2 repeat winners. I was predicting 2 of the regions to have the same winner 2 times in a row. Ended up we only had 1. It was wild. Every region had upsets all over the place. Shout out to EU for staying consistent, and now it's esports taking it home 2 tournaments in a row. Everywhere else is turmoil, it seems. We got some brand new stuff. North America is the one close to home. I know, Bridget, you were in chat the entire time. I was behind the microphone, so we definitely watched that one the most. Nemesis, the new North American champion. And we kept saying it on broadcast because it's really fun to say. We now have 3 different North American teams in this season where we have 3 champion teams. Luminosity win LAIC, Orange Juicers win the AOS Cup play-ins, and of course, Nemesis win the December Cup. So, a lot of squads here. Some making the claim that NA is a 3-team region when a team named Nemesis didn't even make it to top 8 in the first tournament of the season. I think we need to start extending this region to more than just 3 teams. But still an exciting one to talk about. Bridget, what were your thoughts on December Cup?
It was pretty fun. I tried to watch as much as I could of each region, including some of the ACL games. So I was ingesting a lot, obviously focused mostly on NA. And honestly, I'm pretty hype on both LATAM regions this year. I think LATAM South just feels like a toss-up. I don't know what they got going on over there.
Yep.
But I'm really actually excited by LATAM North. I'm not sure what happened to stamina this past round. I'm not even going to lie to you. But I think Hoenn is such a strong team, and it's really cool to see them, like, I don't know, climb back up the ranks this past tourney. I don't know. That's kind of my region I want to like get more into this year, LATAM North.
Cool. They're such a fun region to watch. They I think have always been my like second favorite. Obviously I'm going to show some favor to North America to watch and spectate, but LATAM North has always been the runner-up for me. I think I've been maybe a little too brave about saying that in spaces before. I absolutely love their teams, and I've always power ranked them pretty high, and well, they have not treated me kindly in that way, but it's okay. I'll still keep believing.
Yeah. Someday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fantastic tournament. EU was really interesting too. Obviously, Nouns Esports able to back to back one of the only team in TPCI regions to do it, which is pretty exciting. I see some people in chat talking about the OC meme. We had a pretty fantastic copy pasta, which by the way, the person didn't even make an actual text-based post, so everybody had to, copy from
Manually
the
type.
image. It was so tough, but it was pretty funny. Good moment, good moment. North America competition was pretty wild. We saw some very interesting Pokemon selection throughout the tournament. We had Zephyr in the tournament, right? We just got players like Oblivion and Bora Reach who are known for playing pretty crazy stuff. Oblivion had a couple of moments in this tournament, one on broadcast, one off broadcast, where they won a game with Phalanx, and I really do mean won the game on Phalanx. Like, the game was lost.
Insane.
And Phalanx brought it back. The one was off broadcast. I was watching it, though, while it was happening on Phil's stream on YT, and they got beat by it. Like, it was absurd. And then the same thing happened. Phalanx kind of brought it back. A wild case for a few reasons. I'm pretty sure that bug still exists where Phalanx just sometimes takes 40% more damage than it should. Which is that's why it's been so bad in pick rates, by the way.
Right,
like, it has a
yeah.
detrimental bug. But cool. It has still happening. Beat up Ironhead, so neat, very fun build. Bora Reach's Gengar is back, and maybe that was one of the most exciting things to watch. Like, we were talking, I think it was on broadcast, Spraggles mentioned it a little bit, but Spraggles is like, I've played against this guy on the ladder a lot.
Yeah.
And he's like, I have lost to his Hexgar a lot. Like, it is good, and it's fun to watch Bora play it again. I know that was his very first main, or maybe not first main, but at least first like tournament main that I was able to watch and witness. So cool to see that showing up again, and just cool to see a lot of teams doing quite well. Celestial had a great tournament as well. I think he was looking really good.
Definitely.
But let's talk about our champs, shall we? Nemesis, the new squad, able to take down so many good teams. They had a really tough bracket to make it to the grand finals, by the way, but they were able to pull it off. We saw Yeet Fan playing quite a bit of stuff, but almost no Inteleon, which I found really interesting. You want to talk about that for a second here, Bridget? We saw such a lack of intel this tournament. I feel like there was a lot of Pikachu, Espeon, Alolan Ninetales, and of course a ton of Miraidon Mew. But like, it felt like the sniper kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Miraidon was pretty dominant in that attacker role when it was allowed through the gates, which I feel like it did slip through. Yeah, I mean, he was playing Intel a little bit, and like doing well. I know they beat LG with it, but yeah, I just feel like Miraidon is too versatile, and pre-patch, the Shed Doll Drift combo was pretty nice and clutch, and just having the option almost to either have that super long range with Charge Beam or that kind of more, I don't know, quick, fast speedster drift style is pretty nice. I mean, and it's just incredible. I feel like, was it Flareon's really piloting Miraidon really well, and like kind of just being like the goal stopper demon with it.
That was
I thought
so
that was
funny.
really fun. Yeah, I mean, and that is like what it's good for. Like,
So good, yeah.
its passive is crazy. Like, it actually makes a lot of sense, and it was kind of fun seeing it execute that way. But yeah, it was fun to see Yeet kind of like back in the pocket. I was like, bring out the decky, do it. I'll just play Cinderace, just play it. But it didn't happen for me, but that's
That'd
okay.
be so fun. Yeah, we have a few people talking about Intel in chat. So a couple of things. First off, Wonder Chef and Relic both letting me know like a lot of players did do well on it, and I want to make it clear. I'm not saying I think Inteleon is bad now. I was just surprised at how little it was picked compared to the other options. But I'm seeing, I mean, you're right though, Chef. Both Nemesis and Orange Juicers did play it, and when they did play it, it looked great. So which was kind of why I was surprised we didn't see it more. But CSE, thank you for letting us. The Inteleon bug is fixed. So for anybody who didn't know, that bug was basically, I forget exactly what it was, but it was like the first crit you get. I think if you get a knockout with it or something, I don't know, the stars align correctly. Essentially, all of your moves are crit for the rest of the game. It was like, until you get knocked out or something. I don't even know anymore. If you die. Okay, if you get KO'd, then it was. Fun fact, it's not fixed. Okay, well, maybe it's intended at this point. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Hard to
Inteleon
say.
very strong right now because it's getting critical hits all the time. Okay. So maybe that. So interesting Pokemon selection there. We talked a little bit. Was this in the pre-show or during the show? Metallic stepping up in a major way. It feels like the last time we saw this player like really blow up was North America Regional Finals did really well, and then of course AOS Cup last year was like the hallmark tournament. Was their first tournament in UCS, by the way, which is really cool. Fun to have like a homecoming tournament that like popped off so hard for a player like that to go 5-0 in Swiss and then make a huge run in the bracket. So cool. But Metallic's back, didn't play almost any Serena, if any, on broadcast, which was funny. Pokemon that did get buffed. But was killing it on Gyarados. Was absolutely having a field day on this Pokemon. One of the last few Gyarados believers out there. Thoughts on Metallic and his Gyarados?
Oh, absolutely loved it. I had kind of been wondering why Gyarados had fallen off a little bit. I mean, obviously, the Magikarp of it all makes it pretty rough early, and you really have to make sure you have a support that can help you through that, and a jungler that can probably gank you pretty fast. So it does kind of need a lot around it, but I don't know, Metallic playing it, he never really got stuck. It felt like
in
I
fact,
think you were
kind
casting,
of breakneck pace sometimes.
Yeah,
We were like, oh my god, it's already Gyarados. Yeah,
I really think the worst I saw it was like 8 minutes, which is like the normal time most players get a Gyarados. So I don't really feel like teams did a good job against it, or like couldn't. I don't know. He like just piloted it super well, and I really feel like that's the only detriment to it. I mean, I know there's a lot of other like high priority top laners, but he made Gyarados look really, really good, and I really didn't see anyone else playing it at all, honestly.
Yeah. And obviously in a tournament where Hyperspace Hole wasn't allowed, and I do think that synergy is usually quite strong for Gyarados. Like it does like pretty aggressive portals put down by Hoopa to just dive into. Like it does like that. I mean, Trick Hoopa can also be fantastic on that Pokemon. I don't think we saw too much of that, but either way, it was surprising to see it. I think we're going to see more of it after this tournament. I think it was a little bit of proof in the pudding in a way. So cool to see. Cool to see a lot of players step up. I thought Asnable had one of the best tournaments I've seen from Asnable in quite some time. Played a lot of different tanks, so much so that like the Slowbro bans out of LG against them and stuff like that. Like it was pretty wild to see that. So I think Az was absolutely crushing it this tournament. Had some really heads up Snorlax plays, but was also playing Crustle, a Pokemon that we've seen very, very little of. Something that I think Eat Fan loves. Personally, I think
the combo is
I think any good attacker player absolutely adores Rock Tomb Crustle. So I think that must have been a good synergy pair. But one person in chat asking why Hyperspace Hole was banned. It did have a bug. It might still have the bug where sometimes you can't knock people out of the portal. So like Heavy Slam Snorlax, for example, in some situations does not cancel the recall. You still go back through it. So enjoy your Freelo if you're playing Hyperspace Hole. I don't know. But anyway, that was going on. So yeah, Luminosity I think looked solid. I think their game against Orange Juicers, they looked really good.
Definitely.
It definitely felt like they entered the tournament. That was the game they wanted to win.
It did seem like they had some plans set up.
Exactly.
Double Speedster specifically, but
it's true. It was interesting to watch it play out too, because it was throughout the rest of the tournament, watching some Orange Juicers games, I thought a few of those players were having a crazy. Roland continues to be potentially like. Maybe not even potentially at this point. Is he just the best support in North America right now? It feels like it. Like the way he's playing, Roland is unreal at the moment. Love watching that. We need to make like a NA All-Star team at some point.
Ooh, that would be fun, like a little draft almost.
We should do a special episode one time where we do it kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like some of the like more arcadey sports games like NBA Jam or something, but we pick like,
oh my gosh,
we like year 1 Toon Slim alongside year 3 like PE, you know, and then we make like an All-Star team. I think that would be
so demonic.
That'd be awesome. That'd be so fun. All right, we're gonna have to break that down later.
Yeah, write that down.
Playing amazing. Kratos on jungle this tournament was really interesting for me because it felt like in a couple of matches, Kratos was a little bit quieter, wasn't having as big of an impact as some of the games. And then the next match, he would bounce back and be like a demon. He was 1v5ing on the other side. I was like for example, I think Kratos' Absol was legendary in tournament this time. It was so fun to watch. It was really good. Yeah, Mewtwo X Curios happened.
Did we confirm that was a misclick or?
I don't know. Someone in LG did say something. No, it wasn't even LG. I think it was like Kuzi said it was like a misclick in chat. So I don't know if it actually was because obviously they're not an LG player, but yeah, they were on Mewtwo X.
And it was good. It didn't even look bad at all. I was like, he
Pokemon.
did not die. Like, he was on the other side of the map during Ray fight, like 1v3ing and like got out, like was fine.
Right.
I'm like, this is, people say, I feel like Mewtwo X obviously is like the redheaded stepchild of the former EX Pokemon, but seeing it, I was like, I don't know, guys. I remember when it got the light bulb and people were running it as like almost like a tank. Yeah. I'm like, I kind of see it. It was weirdly pretty good.
I liked it as the tank. I just think when you were playing it as a tank, you mega evolved less. Naturally. Like, I think when you're playing with EXP share, you're not farming, maybe as fast. I don't know. It's gotta be marginal. But, like, it felt like you're not playing as aggressively, therefore you're not megaing as much. And so, it felt a little less impactful to me. I'm not too sure. Plus, so many of the tanks are so good in the game right now. Like, the defender's power level is really high overall. So it's like, well, even if you are picking a former EX Pokemon, like, might not contend with some of the current EX stuff. Pokemon, you know what I mean? But
true.
Yeah, it was interesting. Either way, meta was all over the place. Nemesis really impressed us for a lot of players. Yifan, though, I think was one of those players kind of like Kratos for me. It was like game to game. They'd have a kind of, and the example I can think of was Yifan. I don't know if they want to go by relics now or not. Players, please, for the love of God, make your in-game name what you want me to call you on broadcast.
Yeah.
I am truly begging. Because I'm calling Joey Oogway, I'm calling Yeet Fan Relics until told otherwise. Like, at this point, if we have new viewers to the show, by the grace of the Poke Gods, we have new viewers to the show. I am going to try to give them the best accurate description I can. I'm gonna try. So anyway, he played the Pikachu in the second game when they lost. And I was like, oh man, I didn't like that Pikachu pick very much. Like, I was like, just like not vibing on it. And then the next game, I don't know, he found a different Pikachu. He locked in for game 3 and he absolutely dominated. Yeah, what are you calling OG? I have been calling OG because I don't know if he's allowed to be named Typhlosion, so I'm like, I don't even know.
Flareon's is allowed?
Yeah, you're right. Actually, my favorite thing about that, when Orange Juicers won AOS Cup play-ins, one of the goats of the Pokemon Unite scene, is specifically in Japan, but honestly worldwide, is Fifi. She's an incredible translator that works in the space. A lot of it just for her own content, but a lot of it officially as well. And she just posted like a picture, and then translation of it was like, it was Flareon's and Typhlosion on the screen, but Flareon's and OG, and it was just like,
my God,
confusing but cool. And
cute.
I was like, coming from Fifi, that is so funny. Yeah, Flareon's at the S, exactly. And yeah, Relics saying Relics isn't confusing at all. Yeah, it's slightly different. But anyway, I
learned backwards. That's all I got.
Yeah. So either way, huge congratulations to our new champs in Nemesis. I think all 5 of them stepped up in a major way. I think North America, it does have a lot of strengths. I think there is some inconsistencies that we've called out a couple of times. Like I mentioned, we had some hot games for some players, some flat games for some players. But it seems like the region is still as exciting as ever, as competitive as ever. So that's awesome. One final note I wanted to say, just kind of celebratory, signups for this tournament were actually fantastic in North America. I think we had I think 80 some teams signed up. I think entering the tournament, like just under that number, like of actually checked in competing teams. Which is amazing compared to last year, from like the translation from a a tournament that qualifies you for Europe to just a monthly with a $3,500 prize pool. Like, that's awesome. So I'm so excited about that. There's, I think, quite a few people that have to get credit for that. I mean, credit to the UCS organization for like keeping the prize pool money up and having a shorter off season despite the technical difficulties that it is. And then, of course, a gigantic shout out to the grassroots organizations involved with like the Luminosity server and everything, and Draku and that whole crew and Black for like creating a really awesome competitive environment, competitive community that lasted going into this, right? Like, part of it's on the organization, but a lot of it is just on the general sentiment and community created by a few key players and people. When I say players, I mean people in North America, like Black and Draku, for creating leagues, systems. I mean, obviously, Battle Hub took a little bit of a step back from doing events, but it took a big step up in doing official events. So, congrats there. But really, just really cool to see North America so alive and well. Feels awesome. Makes me really excited and proud to be part of the region for sure. But yeah, okay, that's December Cup. We talked about Tinkaton. We talked about rank changes. There technically was a balance patch that we didn't talk about on the podcast, but it didn't change much. And honestly, it was more confusing. It's one of those, like, it's like the mid-act of a mystery novel of you're like, I got more questions than answers at this point in time. So maybe in Next Steps Part 2 patch we'll know more. I don't know. Knowing the naming conventions now.
Yeah, what happened to our fun name? What's Next Steps, man?
Yeah,
I was a little upset. I was like, well, that's not very fun.
And even if it's Zarina-based, like, triple axel is not a step. Well, dance step. Interesting. Okay, I'm retracting it.
You know, it doesn't really hit the same as flaming, scorching fire of doom or whatever we've been getting.
Now we're cooking. Nah, that's
I'm
good.
Just saying.
Keep that. Look out, Timmy. This is what you need to put in your game. Before we close up, though, just a little bit of Asia Champions League talk, Bridget, if you would like to.
Yes.
Tournaments are still raging on. So fun to watch. I got to watch a little bit more of Japan this weekend than I originally thought I was going to, so that was awesome. Fennel won one of the days, so they came back. Also, I think it's their third tournament win out of the 5 or 6 that have happened so far.
They've won 3 out of 5.
3 to 5. So obviously very consistent. Some would say the best team in the world. I would. But I think the only thing correct about my power rankings that I made and put on Twitter.
The best part, I'm sorry, was the Axis team getting upset at how low they were, and then on day 4 they got like literally last in the tournament.
Listen, while you Puno,
they did better. They did better.
They did. While you Puno, I love you. I love you. I love your fans. Bro, you can't complain about 5th being too low when you're gonna get bodied like that in tournament. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Tee-hee-ing, I can't lie.
Now, I have more problems with stamina not even making it to top 8 in their region, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Look, I need to see what happened. I wish I could see what happened there, but who knows?
Yeah, interesting stuff across the board. Yeah, dude, now let's have to move up now? Oh, man, that's crazy. I'm going to get cooked for putting EU high. All right, we'll see. We'll see. Power rankings next time are actually going to be really, really interesting. North America's always a toss-up because it's like, well, LG's high, and they're consistent, you know? Technically one of the most consistent teams now. A tournament win in 2 second places. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. Championship points wise, they're probably still in the lead now. Yeah. So
I would think so.
They have to be, I think. Because seeing as Orange Juicers and Nemesis both did not participate at LAIC, so they got to be far and away.
Literally.
Highest on that ladder. We got to talk about sometime. Actually, that's a totally different topic. We'll get to that one point of the days. But yeah. Asia Champions League. Yeah, we talked a little bit about Japan. My power rankings on them. I got to watch a little bit of ACL in APAC as well. I didn't get to see too much of it. There's a lot of interesting stuff. I had PRX rated very high on my power rankings. They are still looking good. They had a bit of a misstep in this last weekend. You know who didn't? Is 3rd place in the World Championships last year. Onyx Rise are still absolutely crushing it. Like, they look so good. So good.
So does I meant to look at what their team name was in Worlds. It's one of the teams that won an LCQ. Those are like the top 3 teams in SEA right now.
Oh, Burium is what they are currently, right?
Yeah, it's like Pufaza, that SCG. I like recognize a lot of their I don't see Sunsage on the roster. Might have
Oh.
changed their name. There is a Rainy Day.
That would be awesome.
And very sad story. I just recognized Pufaza. I was like,
okay.
I know him. So maybe it's remnants of that. Cakealock. Yeah, thank you, Naomi.
Yeah, Cakealock from Worlds. Cakealock had a tough go of it at Worlds, obviously placement wise, but I believe their jungler couldn't make it or something like that, so they were playing with their sub. Yeah, and they still day 2'd.
They still did pretty good.
Right, I know. They day 2 out of LG's group, right? Like
yeah, I do not think anyone.
Now I'm extending. I don't actually know that for sure, but
I'm not sure if it was an LG's group, but
yeah,
I know they day 2'd.
I was hesitant about bringing. I remember considering them heavily when I was doing my power rankings. I think the only thing I didn't have them ranked higher for was I was looking and their strength of schedule, because APAC is played as like basically round robin stages, right?
Yeah, it's different.
Most of the wins they had were from teams very low on that leaderboard. So I was like, well, I'm not going to consider them as high as Onyx Rise for the time being, but they're continuing to win. So, and like they've won more games since I've made that list. So
yeah,
they're
they
definitely
have the best record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so fun to watch. Obviously, they're going to put themselves in a position for playoffs. I think they might have already have it locked up, right? I think there's 5 days done. I think there's only 6 days of competition, right?
Yeah, and then finals, I believe so.
So at this point, they already have the playoffs locked up. You're just playing for seeding in group stage. So that's pretty exciting. It's got to be the same for Japan for the most, at least for Fennel. Maybe even Ashes.
Yeah. Other than that, Japan,
they're a toss-up for sure.
Yeah, they've had a lot of ups and downs for.
Can we talk about Chris finally calling them out for playing Curse Spangled Tyranitar and then Ton GG responding and being like, yeah, we didn't know that, bro. Thank you for the heads up.
It was so cute. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I know. I was like,
I love them.
We were talking about, and we've talked about it multiple tournaments because this has happened previously. In fact, I equipped Curse Spangle one time on one of my streams, and CSE got mad at me. He's like, "Why do you have that on?" And I was like, "Well, Japan does it. I don't know.
I just don't do what the good guys do."
Right. So, for example, if anybody in chat doesn't know, and if you're in this chat, you probably know, but basically, any true damage that Tyranitar does, which he does all the time well inside Sand Tomb, that entire sandy area, it does not proc the anti-heal from the bangle. So, and it also does, it also doesn't proc the Drain Crown. So, but Japan loves it. The Spraggles and I were talking about, we're like, well, maybe it's like it's a nice attack stat. Like, it's one of the bigger just raw attack stat held items. So maybe they just want bigger numbers. But at that point, just play weight. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he was aware, so.
Right. Yeah, and then they responded on Twitter, and they were like, yeah, we actually didn't know that's how it worked. We're like, all right. Someone's got to someone's got to point out a stats reason why they shouldn't play Trick Room Mimikyu. That'd be
Dude,
sick.
they will never. They spam it. It is the only moveset, I feel. I do not.
Did I tell you why I finally, for this first time, kind of saw through the fog a little bit on it? Why I think it was big? Yeah.
Really?
I forget who it was. I think it was a player on, it was either on OJA or Insomnia. They were playing Trick Room Mimikyu, and I think they dodged 3 Leafeon ults with Trick Room dodges, and I was like, wait. Holy cow, that's sick. Like,
okay.
Just like, Leafeon leap, it's just like a free eject button at any given moment, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the damage reduction from outside of the room, right? But that's the thing, is who cares? Japan's allergic to playing attackers. They don't play ranged Pokemon. So, like, yeah, Naomi's like losing their mind too. Like, it's like, who are you mitigating damage from? No one attacks from 6 feet away. Everyone runs up to you.
Space, yeah. Like, it's a big room, man.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Either way, some interesting draft choices to watch for sure. It's gonna be crazy. I can't wait to see where that all leads. ACL Land Finals is gonna be one of the coolest events of the year. I can't wait to watch some of that. It's gonna be awesome. Okay, that I think brings us to the end of that. I'm glad we talked about that because that moment on Twitter was one of my favorite things.
So good.
One more piece of Unite news before we close up. We were technically higher in viewership than League of Legends on the Twitch leaderboard for a hot minute. Zeta Division, Zeta Division and Pokemon Unite did a collab where Zeta Division essentially has a sponsored team of VTubers who are extremely popular in Japan, and the only reason I know that is because they brought the numbers when they came and streamed some Pokemon Unite, and we were skyrocketed. We were above League of Legends for a moment. I saw Chris post today. He posted a side-by-side of the viewership numbers and then just with no context put it on Twitter, and that tweet's doing numbers. Every message below that is like, is the game good? And then it's a war in the replies to that comment. It's like, it's garbage. No, it's great. Like, oh man, it's crazy out there. So prepare, I suppose. Batten down the hatches. Who knows what's gonna happen now? But it was pretty sweet. And yeah, if anybody has a VTuber team, Wonder Chef is looking to manage it. He's got a unique set of skills. VTuber Zoinks Wen. Oh, man, but I worked so hard on this model, you know? For audio listeners, I did something maybe the most cringy I've ever done on the podcast, so I won't do it here. All right. I think that's going to close up shop. Bridget, anything you want to talk about before we end the episode?
I don't think so. Oh, I think I am gonna cast Underdunk December 26th, or like help cast, so
sick.
We're gonna try our best.
That's awesome. Y'all, Bridget's been doing a pretty amazing job on the mic as of recently, doing coverage of the play-ins for the AOS Cup play-ins. Doing some casting over there. You and I casted together, and you and Deuce Next casted together a little bit during the Unite Mike's Charity Classic tournament as well this last year. So you've been getting some rhythm. So exciting. I'm really pumped that you're doing some Underdunk now. That is sick. I have a very, very special spot in my heart for that tournament series and everything. So I'm very pumped you're gonna be able to get to do that. But yeah, make sure to everybody tune in Thursday nights every 2 weeks. It's gonna be awesome. Other than that, make sure to follow at Big Bridget on Twitter. Follow the podcast. Go check out the YouTube. The episodes will be going up there eventually, I think. Well, that just though,
keeping you on your toes.
Keeping you on your toes. Have a happy holidays, everybody. I don't know if we'll have an episode within the next week or two, maybe. But with holidays and stuff, it gets scary. Maybe we'll do one of those fun, goofy episodes I just talked about on this show. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, fun, goofy.
If this episode ever does make it to YouTube, please, everybody, tell me your weird holiday traditions that you do, like pretending that model photos are your family. We'll talk to you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.